All righty. All right. Let's see here. So, Tim, you and I are neck and neck with our picks. So it looks like that the Steelers and the Lions are 29-24. That's the scoreboard as where it stands right now. Chris Bob,
Ooh,
as
missed
we're
the field goal.
talking live
Missed the
right now, he
field goal.
missed a field goal.
Missed the
Wow.
field.
Okay. The Lions got a
29-24
shot.
still. Yep.
They got a shot now. The Lions got the ball last, and this is on the plus side of the 2 minute warning, I believe here. So,
Mm-hmm.
that's going to be a nail biter.
And the
Um,
Detroit Lions have a timeout left as well. So they have literally two timeouts: the 2 minute warning
yeah,
and their
yeah.
timeout.
Well,
Plenty of
yeah,
time.
we'll be keeping it. Yeah, we'll be keeping an eye on this game here for those that's going to be listening to us live here. Um, Guys, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to another edition of the Running Through the Jungle Roaring Reaction Show. This is your boy Justin Lacey with Tim Lyons here. Tim, how you doing on this wonderful start of the winter morning day? Actually, it's the nighttime now where I'm at. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good, man. A W versus the Dolphins. We'll get into it, but I'm happy that we won.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not making too much of a fuss with it, so
Right.
at the end of the day, it's been a long season. It's been a trying season. These wins are not a guaranteed in the NFL, as we learned the hard way. This is only win number 5 for the Bengals. But guys, thank you so much for joining us. If you're with us, please like and subscribe. Ding that notification bell. Share with your friends. Let them know that we're here. We're getting ready to talk ball here. The Cincinnati Bengals decided to bless us with the victory on the start of this holiday season. Okay. They actually dominated. I'm just going to just keep it simple. They dominated the Miami Dolphins 45-21. And actually, if you're looking at us live on YouTube, I got the equal sign here. Let me go ahead and adjust that here for us. But we're going to keep it simple here, and then just talk about really just anything we want to, Tim. There's really no pinpointed focus that I have on this game, because at the end of the day, Tim, this season's been over. We've already knew that it was over a while back ago. It was just officially over when the Bengals decided to not show up last week at home for the game against the Baltimore Ravens, and they decided to not even put points on the board. A
Right.
lot of criticism was being thrown out there regarding the Bengals front office, the Bengals ownership, Zach Taylor getting a lot of heat thrown his way. People were questioning Joe Burrow's mental state of mind and thinking that he needs to force his way out of Cincinnati. It's just a lot of bullshit that was just going on this week.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep. It's
if you
still
ask me
going on.
personally, it's still going on. It was already going on for a long time. It was
Mm-hmm.
just buried underneath the dirt until Joe Burrow exercised some of those comments that the national media can just run away with it.
Yep.
But you know what? Joe Burrow decided to say, "Shut up, everybody. I just want to play football." And look here. They pretty much dominated this game from start to finish. That third quarter was just a monsoon of points that they put up, turnovers from the defense, and
Yep.
well, they were going against Quinn Ewers, who was making his first NFL start, so much to be desired about that. But at the end of the day, this is also a Bengals team that had let everybody cook on them. So if you wanted your get right moment, this Bengals defense would have been right. And for a good part of the game, and especially in the first half, I was getting pissed off, Tim, that the defense in the offense, they were on in a sort of way they just still wasn't clicking. It was just like, but
Yeah.
I wasn't getting mad for real. I was like, of course this is happening. So Tim, I'm gonna pause real quick. What did you give me your initial thoughts over the game as the Bengals pull out this win here?
Like I predicted Joe Burrow to go out there, and I think I said 300 bills, and he went out there and threw
Okay.
300 bills. And Joe Burrow came into Miami. Miami was almost 80 degrees and beautiful, gorgeous weather. Both teams played in cold ass weather last weekend, and Miami got their ass kicked by the Steelers. We already know Bengals got their ass kicked by the Ravens, but
Mhm.
Joe Cool came into Miami, cool as hell. Throwing touchdowns. We had Chase Brown out there running for a touchdown, catching touchdowns. T. Higgins returned. T. Higgins looking good out there. You know, and of course our boy Uno over here. Hold on, there he is right there. Uno, who's right above my finger, had 100 and some yards as well. Had a good game. The offense was looking good. The offense was clicking good. I know there was a couple sacks. Personally, the
Yeah.
first sack that was on Joe. He held that ball too long. The second
Nobody
sack,
was getting open though.
yeah, the second sack, that was you can only guard so many people coming through the hole. So,
Right.
but
Right.
it was a good game. The defense kind of was scaring me the first half as well. With that run that A-Chain had, I was kind of like, oh shit, here we go. A-Chain's going to have easily 200. He's going to put up 200 on us.
Yeah.
But the script flipped in the second half. We kind of figured out Quinn Ewers, kind of figured him out, kind of started playing against his game plan, against the Dolphins' game plan, made him throw some interceptions, and that third quarter, man, like you said, it was just a score fest. It was like, keep putting up those points, keep up. And then my boy Justin here goes, I ain't happy until we put up 40 points on these fools. And then next right after that, Joe Burrow throws a tutty. It's 40. It's 40. What was it? 45 to whatever the hell.
45 to 14. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know what?
Like, there you go, Justin. Are you satisfied? Did that satisfy you?
You know what? First of all, let me temper my expectation because again, the season's over. But yes, it does satisfy me because you know what? I'm so sick and tired of games in the past that I've watched this Bengals team play that they always like get out into a nice sizable lead, but then they take their foot off the gas and then they run out the clock. Realistically, man, F all of that, man. Screw trying to play field goals and stuff, man. Go and flex your muscles on offense and start pile driving people into the ground. Start bodying somebody, man. When was the last time that the Cincinnati Bengals had put a beat down on an opponent? I'll wait. I'll tell you, but I'll wait.
I'm gonna say the last game was the Buffalo Bills up in Buffalo. That was the last time. And
even then,
it wasn't really a beat down, but they still had their
they whooped their ass.
They whooped their ass. So
they whooped their ass, but it still didn't make you. That was a playoff game. At any given moment in a high stakes environment in playoff games, you still need to be careful that one score can still change the momentum. We saw it again against the Buffalo Bills this year. Had the Bills would have scored in that playoff game, we were up 20. And again, there was a lot of stuff that was happening in that game to make us feel like that we should have had an even more bigger sizable lead. But whatever, man. I feel like that the last time the Bengals had truly like put a cruise control beat down on somebody was probably back in 2022 when they played at home against the Carolina Panthers and they were up 42-0 on the PJ Walker-led Panthers, and then Baker Mayfield came in the second half and threw 3 garbage time touchdowns. But that was all when Burrow and Chase come. They all sat down on the bench. That's when the last time I seen that happen. Other than that, man, I'm not seriously. I've never really.
Game over. Game over.
Hold on.
Fourth and. Oh, wait a minute. Flag on the play. I'm sorry, guys.
There's a flag on the play.
Our scheduled broadcast here, but it was 4th and 2. Incomplete pass, but there's a flag on the play. So let's see what we get here. Go ahead. Sorry.
Looks like it's going to be a penalty on the defense for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and it's going to let the drive continue. Wow. Lions got bailed out on the 4th down play.
Yep. Oh, yeah, that was PI. That was a huge PI. Yeah.
So,
Duggar.
But anyways, real quick, back to the Bengals game here. As far as the comfortability of them just walking into a game, you felt confident in the teams like in the past. Like even when it was a back and forth affair, you still felt confident because you got Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase and company, whatever, to pull out wins. But way too many times I also see that this Bengals team over the last 3 years, just that stuff bit them in the ass, and they just never just came out on top for the most part, and it just always prevented you from feeling good about a win here. This was one of the first steps that you can possibly take. It's like, look, man, out of all of the chaos and the amount of the noise that we've had to deal with when it came to the Cincinnati Bengals, we finally put that to rest for a week, and they were able to kind of show up there and play a complete football game on both sides of the ball. So I was really happy to see that, though. But nonetheless, man, I'm not going to make too much into it. And as we're speaking now, looks like the Pittsburgh Steelers got a tripping call.
Oh, yeah.
Wow, that is not a good penalty on the Steelers defense. If you're the Ravens, then you're the Ravens fans watching this game live. Dog, you keeping an eye on it like crazy because you need the Lions to win this game. For us Bengals fans, we don't care.
Highsmith with a trip.
That was a bad stupid penalty. Why would you do that?
Like dumb. Anyways, go ahead.
We having fun, man, on here. Yeah. But guys, look. Anyways, thank you so much for joining us here. What we're going to do, Tim, we're going to pivot. because we can talk about the Bengals game all we want to. But first, I want to get into our offense and defensive game balls because I think that before we get back into some discussions for the Bengals game, I want to hear your offensive game ball and then your defensive game ball. And then we'll get back to start talking about more football and the coaching decisions that came along with it. Let me start with your offensive game ball. Who you awarding that to?
I'm giving it to Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow came out there and he just played. He recouped himself from the game before, versus the Ravens. He came out here. He stayed composed. Yeah, like I said, he won on one sack. That was his bad. The other sack, you can only block so many guys. So, or Austin Art, stop giving our offensive line so much crap, bro. You really got to look at the play. And I know I say this all the time, but if you hold on to the ball for way too long, Joe Burrow's going to get sacked. Something's going to you're going to cause a sack. But anyways, sure. Definitely I'm giving my ball to Joe Burrow for the offensive game ball. But I want to give an honorable mention though. My honorable mention is to Chase Brown, man. Chase Brown had over 100 total yards, 3 touchdowns. He was just out there balling out, man. Straight balling out. And I would honestly give it to him, but it seemed like that's been my scapegoat for like the whole season. Has been Chase Brown, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. No, I'm gonna give it to Joe Burrow though this week. Justin, who you doing for your offense?
It's hard not to go with Joe Burrow in this instance just because of all the things that he had to endure this past week. And don't get me wrong, he brought in some of the comments on himself a little bit, and first and goal for the Lions. All right, I'm so sorry. All right, but it's so hard to not give it to Joe Burrow in this because, man, he was very masterful. He spread the ball around through 4 touchdown passes, and honestly, let's say that he does play that game in full and during the fourth quarter because that's when he sat down. He would have probably had 6 tutties, maybe 400 yards. And as I just said, that the Detroit Lions just come back and score potentially the game-winning touchdown. Jared Goff to Amon-Ra St. Brown. Wow. But there's a flag on the play, and it might be on the defense. Who knows? We'll see what happens. But, yeah, but I'm also with you when it comes to an honorable mention for Chase Brown. The dude had a lot of action in this game today. 3 total touchdowns. Just phenomenal work by him. And it looks like that touchdown is coming off the board. It looks like it was a penalty on the Detroit Lions. Sorry guys, we're keeping an eye on this game. This game was very entertaining with the Lions and Steelers. But yeah, they took the touchdown off the board. Still first and goal. But yeah, unfortunately that the Detroit Lions got a little bit of a penalty there. But yeah, let's go ahead and shift gears. Let's go ahead and move on to defense. Who is your defensive game ball, Tim?
I was looking at that and I was like, should I give it to, Miles Murphy? He had some tackles for losses and some tackles. Should I give it to, there was an interception by Barrett Carter. Barrett Carter, I think he led the team in pass deflections and tackles, and he had that INT. So I'm definitely going to give it to Barrett Carter. Definitely, he's getting my defensive game ball.
For me, Barrett Carter missed still a couple of tackles in this game, although he did catch the interception that was really tipped because of Josh Newton did that. I think I'm going to go with Jordan Battle with this one here. Okay. I think that Jordan Battle has really solidified himself at that strong safety position. He is all over the place, man, hitting guys. And honestly, I felt good about what the defensive performance last week in the game where they didn't even show up on offense. Jordan Battle was one of those guys that made you feel good about going against a Lamar Jackson in that offense. And I think that he almost continued those productions this time around. He got that truck hit on a couple of guys. He's knifing his way into the backfield, trying to blow up screen passes and stuff. He's getting excellent hands on the ball to make sure that he forced these incompletions. I think I'm going to go with Jordan Battle here, but I think that is also another thing and really important to highlight here. Dude, I think our 2023 draft class is starting to round into shape a little bit. That 2023 draft class featured rookie Miles Murphy, round 1. You had DJ Turner in round 2, Jordan Battle in round 3. I think moving forward, you feel good about those first 3 positions there. And then
Right.
you got DeAndre Yoshivasta, Chase Browns, and the Charlie Joneses and stuff. You still feel pretty good about that draft class as a whole. The only one eyesore that you may have is really Brad Robbins, the punter, in the 6th round. But
Oh yeah.
okay, yeah, you can move on from that because guess what? You got Ryan Rical who really pinned a couple of balls deep into the starting point for like the 3 and the 2 yard line.
Mhm.
But outside of that, man, I think that you're starting to finally see the fruits of these draft picks' labor, and I'm happy that it's finally happened for the Bengals defense here because we don't get me wrong, you still need to invest heavily in the offseason, whatever direction you decide to take regarding the
Right.
coaching staff, whatever. They need to still invest heavily in this team to get back to winning mode because I still don't feel great about everybody, but at the same time, I'm starting to kind of look at some things like, okay, we starting to see 2023 draft class develop with Miles Murphy, who had himself another phenomenal game. Shamar Stewart, who I'm still critical of, by the way, but he still
Yeah.
found a way to make a couple of tackles, knifed his way into the backfield and got a tackle for loss on Devon A-Chain. I'm really happy with what I see there. So with that
Yeah.
being said, man, I think overall you can go a litany of different directions with game ball on defense, but I am going to give it to Jordan Battle for now because I
Yeah.
think that he has still been playing excellent football up to this point here. All right, Tim, what we're going to do is I'm going to take a quick break while
All right.
the Lions are facing a 4th and goal from their goal line.
And a
And then when we
flag on the
come back,
play. What
there
the
is a
hell?
flag on the play. It may be on them, though.
Hmm.
Holy smokes. All right. Anyways, we'll be right back, guys. Once again, thank you so much for joining us. Please like and subscribe. If you're watching us on YouTube, you'll just see us just kind of stare at the screen a little bit with our Be Right Back drop here for a second. And we'll be right back. All right. Thank you so much for joining us back. Look, Austin R, he been kind of cooking in the comments a little bit. We'll pull a couple of your comments up on stage here. So Double A, he is giving his game ball to Miles Murphy. Again, no shame in picking that because he had himself a phenomenal game. Barrett Carter, it's one of those things where it's like, look, you're very Jekyll and Hyde in your rookie season. Mainly you've been down because you've been
Right.
missing way too many tackles. But however, it is what it is, man. It is what it is, man. I was impressed that he just still has that I'm not going to give up kind of mentality. You need that. He's a rookie. You got some room to grow, but again, you still needs that linebacker. All right. Okay. Some comments about Jordan Battle has been making a little bit better. Very stop. I don't know. Dude, there's a lot of iteration in this comment words, but you're giving Jordan Battles his props there, so I appreciate that. And then Shamar Stewart, like I said, he did make the one good tackle in the backfield, but at the end of the day, I'm still not going to leave my hopes and dream on that. You need to earn your way to more playing time on the field because
Right.
I still look at this defense and still look at that D line and think to myself, dude, I ain't got nobody outside of Miles Murphy because I don't. Joseph Osai, who knows what's going to happen with him going into free
Mhm.
agency. And I don't know if the Bengals are going to be able to retain him during the offseason. So you're going to have a lot of needs. But at the end of the day, you got to be able to figure this out if you're the Bengals front office. And that penalty was officially on the Detroit Lions. So the Pittsburgh Steelers do hold on and win this game 29-24. Look, Tim, I'm going to go ahead and say it. I think the Steelers is going to win the AFC North now. That was the real one and only loss that they had to do. Yes, I know the Ravens has a possibility of running tonight against the Patriots, but I think that Pittsburgh they're feeling the confidence since after they've lost bad to Buffalo at home at that, and they just been finding ways to win these games for Mike Tomlin, you know? So it's crazy that here we are again. This is now win number 9 for the Steelers, and now they're not going to have another losing record for Mike Tomlin. This is just so hilarious at this point. They avoid their first Mike Tomlin's losing season yet again. But yeah, great game though. Great game.
It was. It was a good game. I'm just so sick of the Steelers and I'm sick of the Ravens. I hope the Ravens go in tonight and get their asses whooped by the Patriots.
It might happen again because the Patriots. I'm sorry, yeah, the Patriots. They need to be able to celebrate the division crown with their T-shirt and hat. They gotta win this game because if they
Yeah.
don't win this game, Buffalo can steal that division from them again. So if you're the Patriots, bro, you better figure out a way to drop that. You better figure out a way to drop the Baltimore Ravens, knock them out, and then go ahead and get that victory so that way you can walk home division champs for the AFC East. But again,
Yeah.
anyway, back with the Bengals here. Tim, let me go ahead and ask. I got to ask you this question before we give our final thoughts here. Before we get on out of here, it's going to be a short show today, guys, because at the
Yeah.
end of the day, there's nothing to really extract any more greater detail than what we've already covered. The Bengals won; they dominated, yes, but the season's been over. What is your assessment on Zach Taylor and Duke Tobin now after this game? Does it mean anything to you, or do you think that because what has been lately reported over the week as well too, and it doesn't make Bengals fans feel pretty good, is that Zach Taylor apparently has 2 more years left on his contract, and it
Right.
sources say that they don't plan on making any changes at head coach.
Yeah. So I've watched the press conferences also where they're asking Zach, have you had any conversations with the owner or with the ownership about your contract, about how many? And then he's like, I'm not going to discuss that. And then they'd ask him, well, don't you have 2 years left on your contract? I'm not going to discuss that. He pretty much avoided the whole conversation, all together by just saying every time we have a meeting with the front office, it's about the game plan and what's going to happen this week. We don't, so he's avoiding that. And I can see that. Zach Taylor, I believe he's going to finish out his 2 years. But Duke Tobin wise, if the front office and Zach Taylor and Al Golden and the rest of the coaches and the players don't realize that they need to get rid of Duke Tobin, then there's really something wrong with this organization. We have failed in our draft picks year after year after year for these last 3 or 4 years now. Especially when it comes to defensive wise. I know Brandon always mentions it on our other shows of, we need our draft to be like the Philadelphia Eagles draft was when they were bringing on all these defensive studs and the Bengals just miss on them. They've been missing and missing. We don't need a project player. We need to stop staying. We need to stay away from the athleticism of players and actually look at scout these players, watch their football game, watch their tapes of their production on the field. I don't care if you can run, a 4.2 40. I don't care, because if you can't make a tackle and you can't pick off footballs and you can't make football plays, then I don't give a shit if you're a 4.2 40 guy. I don't care. So but to answer your, and I know I kind of went off on a tangent there. Sorry, Justin. But to answer your question, this game means shit. It don't mean nothing. Because at the end of the day, like we always like to say, at the end of the day, Justin, we still only have 5 wins. And we might get another win before the season's over with. But the whole fact of the matter of it is we haven't made a playoffs in how many years? This is our 3rd year?
Consecutive season.
Yep. And we had a losing season this season. So, this ain't they just really need to focus on this upcoming draft, the scouts, get rid of Duke Tobin, get somebody in there that's a real GM, a real, just a very smart guy, and Duke Tobin's just not the answer.
I don't think that they're going to get rid of Duke Tobin, obviously, because it is one of those family-run ownership businesses, and I do understand that. But what I do think that you need to just have them step aside a little bit and then hire another GM and then let Duke do his job as director of player personnel. Stop labeling this title as de facto GM, because that's not really helping anything. Because right as what you said, the problem that we're seeing is the evaluation of the scouting process when it comes to drafting NFL talent. It is taking way too long for these guys to finally develop the fruits of their labor. We're seeing that from a draft class from 2 years ago, finally do something this year where we ain't got time to be waiting. Joe Burrow went out there in the offseason, been doing Super Bowl media row in front of all of these national media people that were just dogging the Cincinnati Bengals, and he's standing up for them and saying, like, man, we need to bring back T. We need to extend Jamar. Mike Gesicki needs to be back. Do what you can with Trey. We need these guys. I mean, we got to stop letting talent walk. He went out there and tried to defend the organization's honor as well too. But also a part of it said, man, we got to do better about drafting guys too. We ain't got time to wait. And then what did the Bengals do? Draft Shamar Stewart, who wasted his whole entire rookie season from the training camp saga of trying to get his damn negotiating with his contract thing situated. And he didn't even really come out on top on that. Mm-hmm. Then you have the injury riddledness of your rookie year. And then when you did play, you really didn't do shit. So with that being said, man, that was a whole big wash. Now, is there potential? Possibly. But this is the whole point of ain't nobody got time to be waiting on you, dog. And yes, I understand that they didn't wait. They didn't plan for Trey Henderson to go through the saga that he went through this year. But that's what tends to happen when you do not pay your guys their worth ahead of time. You could have gotten this thing already situated well out in advance. Now, I know that there's fans out there that's going to say that, well, they gave him a 1-year bump in 2 years ago. He shouldn't have signed that. Shut up, man. He deserved this bag, bro. And he's shown you that even after that. But now, because that whole thing milked itself all the way down to week 1, bottom line is they made their bed and they had a lay in it this offseason. They went on this offseason with hope being their strategy, and look what happens. Their hope fell through the bottom of the bucket. So, yes, that goes in along with their cycle of saying Zach Taylor is absolutely not off the hook for me just because of this dominating win. This win was more about Joe Burrow getting that mental, get his mind right. And even if they're going on that dead cat bounce that we like to say on other shows as well too, is that they go out and win out these games, even though it don't mean a thing, but you're doing it just to send the fans home happy on a 3-game winning streak. Just like last year, we won 5 games in a row just to send the fans home happy because you still had hope for the playoffs this year. But it just reminds me too. It just reminds me too much of these Marvin Lewis-led era teams where it's like you're out of the playoffs, but you got the final 3 games and then you win the last 3 games. And then it's like, okay, hey, we got hope. We got some momentum that we're building into next year. Dog, it doesn't work like that, my guy. It does not work like that. Because, yes, the next 2 opponents, you got the Arizona Cardinals, who doesn't have their starting quarterback or really anybody of any real relevance except for Trey McBride and Marvin Harrison Jr. Then you got the Cleveland Browns. You might see the Browns get the sack record against us now at this point. I just don't like this. I just don't like having to lean on hope into next year by way of these 3 final games where I just need to see something different going into this offseason. And no, that doesn't mean that Zach Taylor's off the hook. But if that means that they got to keep him again for another year, well, that's their prerogative. I don't think he's the right guy that's going to elevate Joe Burrow and the talent around him. I think that he is a guy that is a fan of Joe Burrow and can help you craft a solid game plan on offense. But even then, bro, that's not good enough for me. I need a guy that can be able to tell Joe Burrow, like, look, bro, this is about the team, and you got to fight hard to be able to elevate the team and be able to hold people accountable, even on defense. So you and I see this the same way. This game doesn't mean nothing to me. But yeah, I just thought I just need to get into your feelings as we wrap up the show. But go ahead.
And like I've said before, Joe Burrow, I wish Joe Burrow would find his inner Aaron Rodgers, his inner Aaron, and just blast the coaches and ownership out. I really wish he would, because he is a professional and he tries to choose his words wisely, and I get it. I get it. I do get it. And you can see his frustration on this. He's not very good at hiding his frustration. But I really hope for Joe Burrow's and the rest of the team's sake, I'm not saying the organization, the rest of the team's sake, is that Joe Burrow's having those hard conversations behind doors with Zach Taylor, Mike Brown, the Blackburns, and Duke Tobin going, you know what, listen here, MFers. You need to build me a defense that can play complementary football so we can win games and we can win championships. That's what's on my Christmas wish list.
Yeah, and it's easy to say, hey, look at the holes. Let's look at where we got to identify the holes and fill the holes. For the longest time, the O-line was the big problem. Now the O-line has been somewhat resolved. You can kind of argue. But now you got the defense. There's going to be holes throughout the entire era of no matter what team you put out there on a year-to-year basis. Things will change. But what I need to see the Bengals ownership, their front office, the coaching staff, I need to see them from the top down be able to maximize the talent around Joe Burrow to be able to create that intrinsic value that you can win games without him being always got to be ahead of his best. Because the only way for the Bengals to win games of how this team is led is if Joe Burrow plays at his best. If Joe Burrow would have thrown maybe like one interception and maybe not 300 yards and 2 touchdowns, but one pick, but maybe 2 touchdowns, 1 pick, 200 yards, the Bengals might have won because the defense did do okay. But what if the game did not end? What if they didn't get those lucky turnovers? The ball didn't tip and bounce their way and those just fell to the ground. Because I'm sorry, though, Quinn Ewers, I know this is probably wasn't the greatest example if you look at the stat sheet, but he don't look like a guy that needs to stay on the bench. He kind of looks like that he does need to play in the league a little bit. Give him a little bit of time. It was his first start. He actually didn't look that bad for real.
No.
But all I'm saying, bottom line is all I'm saying is that you need to create value around Joe Burrow for us to feel good about the directions of the team moving forward. But that's a lot of things to do because, again, on a year-to-year basis, you're not always going to have the best wide receiver core. On a year-to-year basis, you're not always going to have an electrifying running game. You're not going to always have the greatest protection with your offensive line. As we already know, we're entering that part of the era where the defense is just bad. Our defense wasn't always bad during the Joe Burrow era because we saw that during the first 3 years, I should say, in 2021 and 2022. Not so much 2020, they were bad. But when we went to the Super Bowl back-to-back AFC Championship games, the defense was solid. Were they top 10, top 5? No. But they were solid. They were productive. They did what you needed them to do.
Well, during that 22 season, the Cincinnati Bengals were top 10 in defense.
Total defense, I believe that if you quote me on this, because you might be right, but I think total defense, they were probably like at number 12. But again, their pass defense was really good. They always got opportunistic turnovers. And so when they got turnovers in creative ways and clutch fashionable moments, it made you feel like that this was a top end unit because it happened so far off that they perfected the bend but don't break method is all I'm trying to say as well too, is that but like they had the players and the personnel to do it. They just don't have that anymore. But we'll have a lot to be able to talk all throughout the rest of the games as we entered in this final stretch of the season. The Bengals are coming back home for the final 2 weeks of the regular season. You got the Cardinals up on the docket next, and then you round out by playing the Cleveland Browns. You hope to God that Myles Garrett doesn't have his sack record still to break against the Bengals, but if he does, oh well, it is what it is. I don't care. We're not there yet. But any final thoughts on this particular upcoming matchup, Tim, before we let up on out of here?
I hope the Bengals go on. I just hope we just whoop their ass. My nephew Noah is a Cardinals fan, so I just hope Joe Burrow and the Bengals just whoop their ass. That's it.
Yeah, I'm in the same way. I mean, outside of this, you got to flex your muscles, make it another down year because if I got take away if anything from today is that the AFC got off real easy again for the third year in a row with Joe Burrow not being in the playoffs. Because if Joe Burrow was clicking on all cylinders and wasn't hurt or anything like that, or if the team was good enough around him to keep it afloat until he got back, this is a team, the Bengals was going to be a team that I would invest some stock in going into the playoffs and making another deep postseason run. But at the end of the day, man, I don't even care about the tanking. I don't care about draft picks positioning because the odds are the Bengals probably are not going to pick your favorite player anyways. We spent all offseason clamoring about picks and draft picks, and they got the one person I did not want them to draft in the first round.
I don't even think we even brought up Shamar Stewart in any of our drafts.
We did not. We did if it was talking about don't draft this person because we ain't got no time for projects at pick 17, whatever. But yeah, man, you're back home against the Cardinals. Be able to just do what you got to do. Am I expecting another route? Kinda, but I just want you to go out there, give the fans that's coming into the stadium a reward this time because the last home game was particularly ass because of all the ruckus about all the snow in the seas. It was really not a great stadium environment, a welcome experience for the fans that went to that game. And then they didn't even show up to play that game. You better show up to play this one at home, okay? You got 2 more home games left. You better show up and play today. But it was a good start today, man. Anyways, guys, we want to thank you guys for joining us. Again, quick little show today to talk about the Bengals cruise control victory over the Miami Dolphins. Once again, we appreciate you guys for joining us. Like and subscribe, share, ding that notification bell whenever you know that we'll be on live. This is going to be a pretty short week, guys, because the Christmas holiday season is coming up. You will see Tim and I catch us in doing our Pick'em show to be able to talk about the slate of games that's going to be coming up during the Christmas week games and also the Sunday slate games and Saturday slate of games. There's a lot of games that sporadically spread out this week. Okay, so I'm excited for that. You're also going to catch us doing our normal run through the jungle time. Both of that's going to start happening on Tuesday for this week. But once again, we appreciate you all. And thank you guys for so much for tuning in and listening as we are running through the jungle.
I don't know if we're going to be right back, Justin, but catch you on the flip.
Forgot to put this one on.